One of my favorite questions to ask clients is, what is the shape of water? What do I mean by that? Let's find out. Water plays such an integral part in our overall health and wellness. You can go well over a month without eating anything. However, only 3 days without drinking. Crazy. We also have tons of metaphors about life that all pertain to water, right? With the ebb and flow. Sometimes we go with the flow. Sometimes we swim against the tide. Sometimes our problems seem like a deluge washing over us, and other times they're just a drop in the bucket. You know, a couple of my favorites are, you can't fight the waves, but you can learn how to surf, and still waters run deep. And we can also throw in, just for safe measure, don't go chasing waterfalls. It's just another one that we can throw in there. So we have all this stuff about water in our lives, right? My personal mantra is to be fluid like water, just to kind of go with things. So when I ask the question, what is the shape of water? It usually kind of confuses people. And let me explain. I will use this as an analogy. When somebody is overwhelmed by something in their life, I will ask them, what is the shape of water? And they'll kind of, be a little confused, because it's not an actual, easy answer. Because water doesn't have its own shape. It doesn't have its own inherent shape. So water will fill the space of whatever container or vessel that it's in. Put water in a glass and it will fill up the entire glass. If you take that glass and you spill it onto the floor, the water will disperse out. It'll get pulled down by gravity. It will follow the path of least resistance into the lowest point, and there it will pool and collect, and that'll become its new vessel. So that's what water does. Water doesn't have its own shape. It kind of fills in the space that it's provided for them. So why do I use this as an analogy? Because a lot of times in life we tend to get overwhelmed by things. Now, if we look at that, sometimes we don't want to be as overwhelmed by this stuff as we are. So we kind of need to take a look at it from different perspectives. And so this is why I say, well, what's the shape of water? Well, water fills in, whatever space is available to them. So how do we pertain this to what I'm talking about? Well, let's start with an easy one. All right. Because this one actually has a little bit more, tangible barriers to it. So we're overwhelmed by how much we have going on in our life, right? How much things that we need to do. Well, that becomes our water, right? Everything that we need to do, that becomes our water. Our vessel, our container, is time. Right? We need to get all this stuff to fill the container. And in a day, we have 24 hours, and we can't change that, right? It doesn't matter what Night Ranger says. It's an old 80s reference. Look it up, kids. There's only 24 hours in a day. So that's all you can fill, your stuff into. Now, that doesn't really seem to help much, right? You're like, yeah, I know there's only one day, 24 hours in a day, and I have to get all this stuff done. So now what we do is we try to break down that vessel, that container, that 24 hours, instead of making it one big, vessel that all your stuff is in. Let's break it down further, and we're going to create 24 smaller vessels, smaller containers that we can use throughout our day. So we can look at it that way, and we can break things down. We can say, okay, I'm going to take 8 of those and I'm going to put it towards sleep. And I'm going to take 3 of them and I'm going to put it towards, cooking and eating food. So now we're down to like 13 containers left, and I need 8 for work. So, that gives me 5, and I got to commute. And that's 2 hours a day. So that gives me three containers that I can fill with other stuff that I need to do. And this is where the problem comes in, because you may have more things than you have containers, right? And so now we may need to move that stuff a little bit further. Maybe 1 hour containers just doesn't work. Maybe we need to make them into half an hour or a 15-minute, and move stuff around, because you need to take all this stuff and you still need to fill the same amount of space with it. But sometimes we give too much space for certain things in our life and not enough for other things, right? So that's how we can play around, with things in life. What can we change? What can we do differently? Because we do this all the time anyway, right? You don't go to birthday parties every weekend, but every so often you need to go to one, and therefore you need to move things around. Well, if I don't do this today and push that to another day, or if we do this a little bit quicker, if we go out to eat rather than cook dinner, we could save some time. It's all about moving and changing the container and the vessel that you have. Now, this is what I like to work on with clients, is how do we change stuff up? How do we make things different? How do we find time to go to the gym 3 days a week, right? Like, we're going to go to the gym for an hour and it takes 10 minutes to drive there. So that's an hour and 20 minutes I need to find 3 times a week. So what do we do on those particular days? How do we change that up? There's always something that we can do. I've always found in life, if you're trying to make time for things, there's always a way to do it, because we always do, right? You probably, if you have kids, you probably never thought that you would have time to actually raise a child or 2 or 3 or however many you have. You find the time, you shift things around, you make those containers that your water is going in different. And the time one, that one's, like I said, that one's pretty easy, because that's a very tangible thing. There's 24 hours and you can't really change that. But then there's other things that we can look at, like something that may be a little bit more vague. Say you have a lot of stress in your life, right? Stress will fill whatever amount of space you give it to fill, right? That's what happens a lot of times. Things like stress, things like anger, things like depression, they will fill however big of a space you create for them. That's the shape of water, right? These things are our waters, and they are filling however much space that you have. So if you're stressed out all the time, that means that you're giving your stress a very large container to be in. So how do we reduce that? Well, just like we kind of move things around in our day, maybe we make space for something else in our life that is the opposite of that stress. So something that we find enjoyable, something that makes us happy. There's things like just going out for a walk, or exercising, or picking up a hobby, painting, learning an instrument. It could be anything. These types of things, we create that space for these things, and it takes away the space for the negative things. So these are things that we have to work on, and we have to think about always, because it's very easy just to continue to allow the negative in our lives to take more and more space, right? It's going to, and it will fill all the space that you will give it, right? This is why work-life balances get thrown completely out of whack. Because there's 24 hours in a day, like I said, 8 hours goes to sleep, we take that off the table, there's 16 hours left, 8 of them go towards work plus commuting, right? Already you're at a disadvantage. You're not getting equal time. So you need to figure out how to create spaces for self-care, create spaces for loved ones to be in. This is all things that we try to work on, with clients, things that I work on with clients, or things that we work on for ourselves as well. It's just figuring out, how do I do this? So sometimes think about that. Think about, what is the shape of water, right? If you're having a problem, if you're overwhelmed by something, think of that something as your water, and think about the vessel that you've given it to be in and to reside in, and how can you make that smaller? Because if you can make that smaller, then whatever the problem is ends up being smaller, right? Your stress didn't become insurmountable overnight, right? You didn't have the same level of stress when you were a kid, right? It kind of grows because we gave it more space to exist. Try to reclaim that space. Take that space and give it to something else that's going to be the opposite of the stress or the anger or the depression or anything like that. So that's what I mean by what is the shape of water. It's really thinking about how much space we're giving to things, and whether or not we should change that up or not. So I hope this is giving you a little bit to think about. I hope it's been helpful. If you like this video, then please click the like button and share it with your friends and family. If you want to hear more of what I got to say, then subscribe, turn on notifications, and find out when new videos are coming out. And leave me some comments down below. What are your feelings on this? Do you feel like you give a lot of space to negatives in your life and not enough for positives? I'd love to hear from you. So until we speak again, be well, be safe, and be kind to everybody.